Part 4. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 31. The sky is getting slightly drunk, and it's dawn again. A small mosquito flew out of the rented house of the wage earner. Just like yesterday, he still closed all the programs he was running on the computer, and cleared all browsing records and QQ login records. This is the most basic vigilance. He flew past the breakfast shop that was still packed with people and flew towards the bus stop. His first destination today is the same as yesterday. An hour or so later, Jia Yan once again came to the place where he was beaten to death when he was a human. The unfinished building in front of me is still the same. Although it is tall, it has no life at all. Jia Yan calmed down and flew towards the room in the building. Sure enough, he's not dead yet. Jia Yan entered the room and looked at the bottle containing CHR-379 liquid. On this bottle, Jia Yan grabbed a heavy piece of garbage and used it as a bottle cap to ensure that yesterday's Anopheles sinensis mosquitoes could not fly out. Jia Yan was very vigilant. The Anopheles sinensis mosquito did not die yesterday, perhaps because it was temporarily unresponsive, so he trapped the mosquito in the medicine bottle. Up to now, it has been more than 20 hours, and the male Anopheles sinensis mosquito inside is still not dead. And he was still jumping around, nothing strange at all. That shows that this potion is also very safe for Jia Yan. Jia Yan felt slightly relieved. Then he opened the bottle cap. Buzz. The Anopheles sinensis mosquito inside is about to fly outside. But before that, Jia Yan's pair of powerful front feet held it firmly down. I'm sorry. Although I know that you are a male and cannot suck blood, if you fly out like this, you may still poison humans. In order not to hurt innocent people, you should die. Jia Yan works hard. The two front legs directly twisted the male mosquito's head off. I still side with humans more than mosquitoes. Jia Yan shook his head slightly, and then threw the dead male Anopheles sinensis body to the ground. Regarding mosquitoes, although his body is also one of them, Jia Yan still considers himself to be more human. Next, Jia Yan felt a little anxious and inserted his slender mouthpart into the bottle containing the so-called CHR-379 virus solution. The front end of the mouthpart was inserted into the liquid, and Jia Yan sucked a little carefully. The taste is not unpleasant even when mosquitoes suck it. It has a slightly sweet taste and is very good to drink. After drinking a little, Jia Yan stood at the mouth of the bottle and waited. After half an hour, there was no change or bad symptoms in his body, so he continued to lower his head and inserted his mouthpart into the liquid again. This time, suck up the medicinal liquid suddenly and quickly. A few minutes later, a mosquito that was already huge, but now filled with liquid in its mouth, flew out from the unfinished building. It's really easy to be exposed like this. Jia Yan looked at his body. Originally, the mosquito's body was slender, so even if Jia Yan's body reached 1.5 centimeters, it would still be difficult for human eyes to detect. But now that he has absorbed the virus liquid, his body has swelled up, making it easy for those with sharp eyes in the sky to spot him. Fortunately, my speed doesn't have much impact. At full speed, it's about the same speed as a human running. As long as I'm more careful, there shouldn't be much of a problem. Even if I'm discovered, I'll fly away quickly to a higher place. Unless you are extremely unlucky, the possibility of escaping is still 90%. Jia Yan controlled his body and flew towards the bus stop. Another half hour later, his figure appeared in front of another old building. This place is relatively remote, and cars rarely stop when passing by. This is where the two killers live. Do you think that guy is spying on us? Is he even hearing what I'm saying now? In the rental house, the bearded man asked his accomplices in a somewhat listless mood. I don't know. But we have searched the entire room and found no bugs or anything like that. He probably can't hear what you are saying now. The young man wearing glasses thought for a while and answered. Sorry, I heard them all. Jia Yan was hiding in a hidden place behind the window and heard all their conversations. He has a round body and is filled with a deadly viral liquid called CHR-379. Now, he is like a grenade filled with explosives, his combat effectiveness is bursting. Is it possible that a scumbag with a combat power of 5 was transformed into a god with a combat power of 100? If these two killers dare to do anything strange, he will show no mercy and inject the virus into their bodies while they are distracted. Do we really believe him? Could this person be the one waiting for Yutao? He told us so much, just to drag us and wait for Yutao to come back to deal with us. The bearded man was still a little wary. This is true, as a killer, this level of vigilance is essential. The young man wearing glasses was silent for a long time, and then said, No, in my opinion, this person's ability is too high, so high that we can't even imagine it. Do you think Yutao has the ability and means to get such a person, character help? That's right, although the Yu family is a first-class family in Shanghai, if you look at it across the country, it won't even make a sound. Regardless of whether the people who come into contact with us are senior drug addicts or not, they are at least the same. He's such a big shot, I can't even invite him to come to the Yu family. Jia Yan was listening outside. He was a little surprised. In his opinion, the Yu family was a large enough family, and it didn't know how many corporate connections it had. I didn't expect that the two killers would still be so miserable. Maybe the Yu family is located in a better location, in Shanghai, which is known as China's international city, and the family's actual power is not an exaggeration. Okay, let's not offend this kind of person. If he really wants to deal with us, I don't think he needs anyone else at all. It's enough for him to do it himself. Maybe he is really alone, so he needs his men urgently, the young man wearing glasses concluded. Then you mean, we just wait obediently, the bearded man sighed. Wait. Why don't you wait? Maybe if we build a good relationship this time, when we need the senior's help in the future, he will be willing to help us. Jia Yan was not deceived by the sweet words of the two people. He just got closer to the window and quietly listened to all the movements of the two people. After all, most of the day passed. The time has come to 16:35 in the afternoon. If the Yutao itinerary given by the killers is correct, then Yutao has already taken a plane from Paris to Shanghai Puxi Airport. The two killers still had no intention of leaving and escaping. Jia Yan is still waiting. The time hand reached around 18 o'clock. It was already dark. I said, if that person is alone, he should be next to Yutao and ready to attack now. Are we really not going to run away? The bearded man said in a hoarse voice while eating the instant noodles in his mouth. The young man wearing glasses did not respond. After a long time, he let out a long sigh. Forget it, if he really has contact with Yutao, someone should have come to arrest us by now. If there is no reaction yet, the cooperation he told us should be true. It depends on whether he assassinates Yutao. If he really helps us kill Yutao, what if we become his subordinates? Don't worry. Well, this kind of person should not kill us to silence us afterwards. There was silence in the room. After waiting for another 10 minutes, Jia Yan's bulging body filled with medicinal liquid finally flew out from under the hanging window eaves. After monitoring the two killers for a whole day, at least it seems that they really have no intention of leaving. In fact, monitoring them has another meaning, that is, if the two people reveal that there are any hidden dangers in the CHR-379 liquid, he will directly control his stomach and spit out all the liquid. While it won't prevent all harm, it will at least help a lot. Fortunately, the problem with the liquid medicine was not heard. Jia Yan is very rigorous in doing this. If the two of them chose to escape after he left, there was nothing they could do. Anyway, he had at least confirmed that the CHR-379 virus was real. With this virus, he can still kill you. It's just that I can't let you die in such pain. At most, the loss is a waste of energy, helping these two killers to kill you Tao. Let's go again. The target is the Yu family's main office building, Mingxia building. To be continued. Please collect, please collect. For book lovers who don't know how to collect books, first come to register an account, and then click Add to Bookshelf on the page of the book Rebirth of the Giant Mosquito in the Starry Sky. Bulletin you would like to thank you. In addition, I would like to express my gratitude to the book friend I laughed and cried after reading this book and forgot about it again, and to the beauty Menying Luoluo who continued to reward this book. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 32. Mingxia Building is a 30-story comprehensive business building that houses a shopping mall, a game center, and offices for dozens of small and medium-sized enterprises. The parent company of the Yu family, Mingxia Real Estate, occupies most of the building. Some are used as staff dormitories, and some are office spaces for various purposes. A total of more than 300 employees are working hard in this big building to further expand the Yu family's industry. The recent performance is not bad. Employee rewards will continue to be distributed as I said before. Yu Tao, who had just gotten off the plane, was sitting in the chairman's office, dealing with the company affairs accumulated in the past few days abroad. Okay, a certain department manager in the company took back the report he submitted and walked out of the door. He looked at the door and saw two tall men in black standing at the door. There were also two men in black suits and ties in the chairman's office. Although they didn't speak, standing there made the well-informed manager feel stressed. Has something happened to the chairman recently? Otherwise, I have never seen him recruit so many security forces before. The manager couldn't help but think so. Tell me about it. In the past few days, have you arranged the manpower to investigate where the killer who wants to kill me has settled? After the manager had completely left, Yu Tao in the chairman's office suddenly asked with a cold expression. The target of his question was naturally the two security team captains and deputy captains sitting aside. The security captain opened his mouth slightly in shock, and then said, "Not yet. But we have received certain information, pointing out that they are from a medium-sized international killer organization. This organization has a total of 50 to 100 members, of which only a very small part of them work as full-time killers. Most of them have other professions, and some of them also work in other mercenary organizations. So what you're saying is that you can't even deal with the two killers in this motley crew of killers?" Yu Tao frowned. "That's not the case. Although this organization has a loose and scattered staff, there are still many elites among it. Just like the two assassins who are here to assassinate you. I know from limited intelligence that both of them have very strong combat capabilities. One of them once held the title of Sniper King on the African battlefield for a long time. Even if I fight him, I may not win," the security captain said. Yu Tao blew out a puff of laughing gas from the corner of his mouth, but it was definitely a sneer. The security captain said so much, wasn't he just bragging about how powerful his opponent was, and then also praising himself by the way? Using language tricks, he, Yu Tao, threw away the security captain for who knows how many streets. Anyway, the implication is that the specific whereabouts of those two people are not yet known. Yu Tao had a headache and thought of another thing. He already knew what happened at home yesterday. Now Yu Tao regrets it extremely. More than a month ago, the beautiful girl from the Ding family who was supposed to be the future daughter-in-law agreed to live temporarily in the Yu family compound for some unknown reason. He vaguely felt something was wrong. It's funny that at that time, I was still thinking about the affairs of young people. Their elders didn't have much interference, and they even moved out of the compound with their wives, only going home once in a while for a symbolic visit. Unexpectedly, Ding Liman actually revealed the cancellation of the wedding in front of everyone. The Ding family even hung up the phone last night and told him that his son Yun was threatening hostages, and that the man had been beaten by his son a long time ago. Died. Could it be that he was talking about the boy that he helped his son deal with more than a month ago? He is just an ordinary person. Even if his son is killed, it will be nothing. At that time, Yu Tao didn't think too much. He just told his son not to be so cruel in the future, and then hung up the phone with some people in his network. The dead man was naturally treated as a car accident death. And in his company, there are a lot of people who can keep secrets and are willing to go to jail for huge compensation. I just didn't expect that the dead boy would be related to Ding Liman's incident. Yu Tao's head hurt very much. It didn't feel like pain, but it really hurt. How much the Yu family paid for this marriage cannot really be expressed in numbers. The favors and relationships used in it are all debts that will be repaid in the future. Moreover, Yun's actions have reached the bottom line. If other families know the internal reasons, the Yu family's reputation in Shanghai will be reduced a lot. In other words, he, Yu Tao, does not dare to get back any of the things that the Yu family has paid. Otherwise, if the Ding family exposes the matter, the price that the Yu family will have to pay will be 10 times more. I'm going to the bathroom, you guys come with me. Yu Tao stood up, but touched his forehead weakly. The deputy captain stood up and followed Yu Tao into the toilet with a small door on the side of the office. Yu Tao was so scared that he even had to be followed to the toilet inside the office. Okay, you wait outside. Yu Tao walked into the toilet, but there was a cubicle inside, so he opened the cubicle door. It turns out to be a large size. It won't taste too bad after a while, right? The vice captain's face looked a little ugly, but it was his duty to do so, so he nodded with an uncomfortable expression. Yu Tao entered the toilet room. And at this time, a mosquito that had been hiding in the darkness of the office also buzzed and flapped its wings and followed him into the toilet room. He passed the deputy security captain and slipped in through the gap above the compartment. Jia Yan looked at the middle-aged man below who was taking off his pants. This person is also a well-known figure in the Shanghai Stock Exchange. It's an exaggeration to say that he can control the wind and rain, but this person's words can even easily determine a person's life or death. It's almost like calling the wind and rain. In his previous life, the cause of his death was that he helped his son, who ordered the murder, to get away with the crime. Yesterday, he had a party at home. It had only been a month since he killed a person, but he was so happy, and even used that person to trick his fiancée into his home. If he could raise such a son, he would definitely not be a good person. Just the fact that he helped his son cover up the murder charge was already a serious crime. So, you die. Jia Yan's body, trying to reduce the frequency of flapping its wings as much as possible to reduce the risk of being discovered, fell quietly. Yu Tao had already taken off his pants and was about to relax. Jia Yan landed on his neck. Yu Tao was very alert. At this moment, he seemed to feel something falling lightly from his skin. He was about to reach out and touch it. But at this time, Jia Yan suddenly thrust his mouthpart into the skin of this successful man. Yu Tao's muscles contracted almost instantly. He felt that the skin on his neck was numb. What the hell? Yu Tao raised his arm and was about to slap the thing on his neck. Jia Yan looked at his movements, and the cold look in his eyes suddenly became even colder. The speed at which he injected the virus suddenly accelerated. Yu Tao finally let out a scream. The arm he raised went limp. At this moment, Jia Yan injected almost all the CHR-379 virus into Yu Tao's body. Yu Tao felt the numbness spreading, first to his neck, and then starting from the neck. Within seconds, it spreads throughout the body. Yu Tao growled, but his voice became extremely weak. In extreme pain, he saw a huge dark insect, which looked like a mosquito, slowly flying up from his neck. Ah! He opened his mouth, and the unwillingness in his eyes was very obvious. He never imagined that he was actually attacked by such a little thing, and depending on the situation, it might be a fatal blow. Not willing to give in. The Yu family has not yet grown into a top family. Not willing to give in. The son has not yet married, so he will pass on the Yu family's bloodline. Yu Tao is unwilling to give in. Chairman, what's wrong with you? The deputy security captain outside is considered an elite in the security industry. Although waiting in the toilet smelling the smell made him feel unhappy, the vigilance he should have has not disappeared. He heard Yu Tao's deep voice. The deputy security captain immediately knocked on the door and asked. But there was no response from the cubicle. Captain! Captain! Come here quickly, the deputy security captain screamed again and again. Bash the door. Quick! The security captain who came after hearing the news was also very shocked. His sensitive professional vision made him understand that something must have happened. With the combined efforts of the two of them, the thin partition door panel could not withstand the force of the collision. A bang! The door panel was knocked open. But what the two of them saw was Yu Tao sitting on the toilet, with his head bowed and foaming from his mouth. Chairman! Chairman! The security captain was extremely shocked and quickly stepped forward to help. The deputy security captain looked around warily. How big can the compartment be? That is, a place as big as a palm. No matter how he looked, he couldn't see anything suspicious. What's going on, a killer? Or something? The security captain's eyes seemed to be spitting fire. The protection task he accepted this time, the protection target was actually in danger under such circumstances. This was a very serious blow to him, an extremely conceited security captain. There is no external injury. It is probably caused by poison or illness. The deputy security captain had some medical knowledge and had already made a judgment after taking a few glances at Yu Tao. Hang up the phone quickly and call an ambulance. Hurry, the security captain supported Yu Tao and shouted anxiously. And just when one of them hung up the phone to call an ambulance, and the other was observing Yu Tao's vital signs. A dark Anopheles sinensis mosquito hiding under the sink flew out from the shadows. Then he passed through the toilet door and flew towards the office door, which was opened because two security personnel came to the door after sensing the movement. Yu Tao, die. The next one is you, Yun. Jia Yan was flying. The coldness in his compound eyes seemed to be able to freeze the flames. To be continued. Please collect it. Thanks to I am a tiger that eats pigs. Brother's reward, brother, if you can't log in to your large account, you can add QQ customer service to solve the problem. In addition, I would like to express my gratitude to the book friends who still insist on tipping every day and the beauty Menying Luoluo who still insist on tipping every day. Your tips have always been the motivation for me to update. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 33. The power of CHR-379 is indeed unimaginable. Perhaps as a kind of poison, this virus-type liquid is not the first, but the killer organization developed it just to kill without leaving any trace. It takes a few seconds to render a person unable to move, but within 10 minutes, that person will definitely die. This can be said to be completely hopeless. Jia Yan flew calmly in the air, trying not to think about his murder. But this kind of mood cannot be calmed at all. Maybe before, he felt that Yu Tao's death was justified, but after actually killing a person, all kinds of feelings emerged, and it was difficult for Jia Yan to calm down even if he wanted to. It's not regret or anything, or fear, but a more complicated emotion. Jia Yan couldn't tell what it felt like. It was hard to describe. At this time, in Mingxia building, a full-time corporate physician working in the building's infirmary and 2 nurses escorted the ambulance stretcher, surrounded by several security members wearing black suits with sweat on their faces. Each of these people looked at the pale man lying on the stretcher, with a look of horror on their faces. Is it an assassination or something? Chairman Yu, who was fine just now, is now in such a deep coma. Moreover, his vital signs were very unstable. He had breathing and heartbeat for one moment, but no heartbeat and breathing the next moment. The doctor gave him a few emergency injections of cardiotonic drugs, which gradually stabilized his heartbeat. I don't know what's going on, but the ambulance is coming. Let's escort him down first. The doctor quickly arranged manpower. Give. Quick, give. A group of people rushed to the elevator, told other passengers to wait, and then pushed the stretcher carrying Yu Tao into the elevator. Isn't that Mr. Yu? What's going on? The employees looked at the closed elevator door and were all stunned. They could clearly see the person lying on the stretcher just now. It was Yu Tao who was inspecting the work one by one before. What happened? It happened in the blink of an eye. Is this a sign of big changes for the company? Some employees who responded quickly thought of this. 2 minutes later, an ambulance roared out of Mingxia building. No, the pupils are dilated and the heartbeat has almost stopped. Prepare the defibrillator. The doctor in the ambulance was also under great pressure. The man in front of him was a big shot in Shanghai. On the way to the hospital, the superior hung up the phone. He must ensure Yu Tao's life, otherwise it will be very involved. But for a patient whose cause of illness could not be found out immediately and whose vital signs dropped rapidly, the doctor was helpless. The sight of electric shock to the heart is very terrifying. Sweat is constantly flowing down the doctor's face, but only part of it is hot sweat, and most of the rest is cold sweat. He knew that he couldn't save Yu Tao at all. In the car behind, the security captain calmed himself down, and then pressed the phone button. At this time, in the suburbs of Shanghai, the Yu family courtyard, which was originally very noisy, was very quiet today. When the Filipino maid walked around, she didn't dare to make any sound, and the lights became dim. Yu Yuan was sitting in front of the computer in his room. He was browsing photos on the computer he had turned on. The photos were either of him with a beautiful girl, or of the girl alone. The girl above has smooth, straight, and long black hair. She often likes to wear pure white dresses and simple yet elegant makeup, which can always perfectly reflect her charming beauty. Different from those vulgar powders, this kind of charm is the result of nature. Innate temperament, tutoring since childhood, and natural beauty, all integrated together, can produce such a beautiful woman who never gets tired of it. Only now did Yu Yuan realize the beauty of his fiancée. That model, that second and third tier actor, they are two different creatures. Yu Yuan looked at these photos with regret in his heart. There were many beer bottles beside his table, and there were many empty cans on the ground. Yu Yuan was a little drunk, and then he smiled miserably. The eldest daughter of the Ding family was just missed by him. Regardless of her wealth and status, she only talked about this unique beauty. He had been kicked in the head by a donkey, so he would treat her like that before and drive her away. Let's go. What went wrong? It's obviously always been good. Why did she suddenly come out of the room and announce that her engagement was over? There must be something wrong. Although this girl comes from a big family, her personality tends to be timid and easy to manipulate. Why was she so brave last night? Yu Yuan is thinking. Then. The phone is ringing. Hey. I didn't say don't bother me if you have nothing to do. He pressed the answer button and was about to curse. What? My dad. Yu Yuan stood up from the chair overturned, and the empty wine cans were smashed on the ground and rolled everywhere. I know, I'll go right away. After pressing the end call button, Yun looked at the phone and was stunned. What was said on the phone? Why do I seem to have forgotten all of a sudden? It seems to be saying that his father Yu Tao, the person who is the top of the Yu family, suddenly became critically ill? How can it be? Didn't you just hang up the phone and scold yourself for being incompetent and for missing such a good girl? Why did he suddenly say he was critically ill? This must be a prank call. The security captain seemed to be quite critical of himself when he first came to protect his father. But he doesn't have the personality to do such a prank. By the way, hospital, I want to go to the hospital. Yun seemed to have lost his soul. He stood up drunkenly and was about to walk out of the room. But when he stepped on the empty wine can that he had thrown away after drinking, he suddenly slipped. When he was about to lose his balance, Yun reached out and grabbed randomly. The computer monitor on the table was caught by him and fell to the ground. The half-drunk wine can also fell down. The wine poured on the table and spread along the monitor data cable. Then the host computer there was a crackle of electricity. A burning smell filled the room. Those Ding Liman photos saved in the computer are likely to be insecure. With a clang sound, Yun still fell heavily to the ground. What's going on? What's going on? Someone is harming me, someone must be harming me. Come out, you bastard. You bastard. Yun yelled crazily with bulging veins. Mr. Yu, what's wrong with you? Is there anything wrong? A Filipino maid outside heard the voice and rushed into the house speaking half-native Chinese. Get out. Get out of here. They are all bastards. I don't want you to control them. Yun struggled on the ground. Yun was very drunk, and then the Filipino maid went out and called the security personnel, and then she reluctantly took Yun into the vehicle to the hospital. Yun. When Yun arrived at the emergency room of the hospital where his father was being treated, his mother, a pretty middle-aged woman who had been living in another residence these days, hugged her. The middle-aged woman cried miserably, "The doctor said your dad is about to leave. What's going on? He's such a good person. We hung up the phone just after dinner." The middle-aged woman was whimpering, not noticing the smell of alcohol on Yun's body or the crooked state of his standing position. Yun, have you been drinking? You're a capable boy. You're very busy with social activities now, aren't you? You drink every day, and you dare to come drunk even to see your father for the last time. But there are many other relatives present. You must know that the Yu family is a giant and cannot only have a branch like the main family. The person who is yelling at Yun now is Yun's uncle, a person who also controls a branch of the Yu family. Yuanjia woke up halfway. He had been extremely afraid of this uncle who failed to fight for power since he was a child. You bastard, I saw you drinking. With a snap, the middle-aged man slapped Yun hard. You're the only one who's careless. You've managed to find such a wonderful wife for you, you're so good, so awesome. Drive them away. You know how much effort your father has put into building this family for you. Now he's leaving at that time, you still dared to come to me drunk like this. You are so capable, so capable. Bang bang bang. The slaps hit Yun's cheek one after another. Yun's cheek immediately became swollen after a few blows. Yun's teeth clenched. The middle-aged man may still have some feelings for his brother who has been fighting for power all his life. At this time, he is in a surging mood and wants to continue to slap him. If you do this, do you know that your father will die with his eyes open? Snapped. A hand grabbed his thrown arm hard. There was a fierce light in Yun's eyes. It was him who grabbed the middle-aged man's arm. Old bastard, you must be the one who caused my engagement, and you must be the one who wanted to kill my dad. It's all you. You are the only one who hates my family. It must be all you're doing, Yun yelled. Yun aimed at his biological uncle and punched him. Ah! It's all you. It must be you who caused this. Yun went completely drunk and went crazy. The remaining relatives of the Yu family were all in chaos. Yun, you can't do this. Your dad is about to die. Aren't you making him even more worried? These people are about to break up the fight. However, the emergency room door suddenly opened. The attending doctor looked at the chaotic scene outside and moved his mouth. We tried our best, but, Chairman, you still couldn't keep it. He raised his fist and was about to hit his uncle with Yun, when he blushed and roared. Ah! You must be with him. You are definitely working together to harm my family. Yun clenched his fists again, looking drunk, and rushed towards the attending doctor. Not long after, doctors and nurses ran out of the operating room screaming. In the operating room, look for the book. A drunken young man who looks like a crazy man holds a chair in his hand and smashes the instruments crazily. It's all you. You are all harming our family. Lying next to him on the operating table was the middle-aged man who had lost his voice and remained motionless. This man originally had a very prominent life experience, but now that he is dead, doctors can't come to a conclusion. They initially concluded that it was an acute viral infection. But right next to such a dead person, his drunken and crazy child was beating him up like crazy. This is true. But if Jiayan could see the scene, at most he would sigh. If God wants to kill people, he must first make them crazy. Yun was unfaithful and unfilial, and regarded human life as nothing. Death is what you deserve. To be continued. Please collect, recommend, and reward. Another big chapter with over 3,000 words. Once this chapter is updated, the book will reach 100,000 words. I don't know if you have noticed that the release date of this book is August 10th, but today is August 26th. Many authors who published books a few days earlier than Baiyu now only have more than 80,000 words. Bulletin U doesn't know how everyone thinks about the update speed of this book, but Bulletin U is quite satisfied with his own updates. 100,000 words, it's a new journey. Thanks to the three book friends I laughed and cried and forgot, Menying Luluo and Z27818708755 for their continuous rewards. It is because of your support that Bulletin U persists. Thank you very much. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 34. Yu Tao is dead. I think with your intelligence network, you should have gotten the news. Jia Yan returned to the rented house of the wage earner, waited until he fell asleep, and then stepped forward to close the game as usual. Then open QQ and contact the two killers. Yes, we got the news. The characteristics of his death were exactly the effect of CHR-379. The other party didn't let Jia Yan wait too long before replying with this sentence. Fortunately, they probably didn't choose to leave. Otherwise, Jia Yan's threat to find them within a day in such a huge crowd would really be unattainable. Now that you have received the news, my promise to help you kill Yu Tao has been fulfilled. Now it is your turn to exercise your promise. Okay, we understand. It's Yun you want to deal with, right? What should we do? Jia Yan remembered the first time he met these two people in the van. They said that if the target was Yun, there would be too many ways. Then let them hijack Yun and do something. This should be very simple. Yu Tao had so many security forces, but Yun definitely didn't. And no one would have thought that the day after Yu Tao left, someone would be targeting his son Yun. You do this. Jia Yan sent the messages one by one. On the other side of the network connection, the two people in front of the screen were stunned as they looked at each other's messages. As a killer, I have seen many cruel and even more cruel people, but I have never seen anyone so cruel to an ordinary person. Does the other party have a grudge against Yun himself, or does the employer who accepted the entrustment have a grudge against Yun, and he actually wants to deal with him like this? Okay, just do what I do. Also, let me ask another question. After typing out the font, Jia Yan continued to ask a question. You should know where the girl who attempted to assassinate Yun lives, tell me. The Yu family has changed. The current head of the Yu family, Yu Tao, contracted an acute virus and died. This not only changed the fate of the Yu family company, but also caused a small shock in the Shanghai stock market. Although many ordinary people are not familiar with the leader of the Yu family, and even very few people in the Yu family know about it, on the day after Yu Tao's death, some stock prices began to fall, and along with it, the entire stock market suffered a certain decline. There are also some big names who have begun to come in and out of the hospital, and some are even extremely well-known figures. But all this has nothing to do with Yun. When he woke up and opened his eyes, he found himself lying in his room. Why am I here? It hurts. Yun felt his fist hurt, and then he raised it up to take a look. He saw a lot of broken skin on the joints and clear blood stains. These wounds were obviously caused by hitting someone or something solid with his fist. Yun's eyes widened as he slowly recalled what happened yesterday. Dad, Yun jumped out of bed. He opened the door, but there were two security men in black waiting at the door. Mr. Yu, where are you going? The leader saw Yun and asked. I'm going to see my dad. How is he doing now? Yun held the man in black's clothes with both hands and said repeatedly. Unfortunately, Mr. Yu, your father was pronounced dead by the hospital at 8:20 last night, the man in black said. How is that possible? I want to see him, Yun shouted anxiously and was about to run out. But his shoulders were held down by two men. Mr. Yu, you were ordered by your mother and uncle not to see your father. They said they had to wait until you calm down for a few days before talking. You won't completely forget what happened last night, right? The leading security man said in a cold voice. Last night? Yun's expression suddenly changed. I seemed to have been drinking last night, and when I got to the hospital, I had a little friction with my uncle. After that, Yun looked a little regretful. He remembered that he actually went to Yu Tao's body and made a scene like a beast. It seems that the operating table was overturned in the end, along with the father who lost his breath. Ah, Yun hugged his head and squatted on the ground. Mr. Yu, are you okay? The man in black asked. But deep down in his heart, he sneered. This young man who was unfaithful, unfilial, benevolent, and unjust, if it wasn't for his mission, he wouldn't have said too much to such a person, or wouldn't have punched him a few times. It was all because of his kindness. I want to go for a walk, okay? Yun looked sad. Well, okay, but we have to accompany you. The two men in black looked embarrassed, looked at each other, and then said reluctantly. Half an hour later, a somewhat haggard Yun followed two men in black and drove out of Gashan community. And not long after their extended version of the Land Rover turned out of the gate of the community, they were on a road not far from the community. A silver-white van slowly drove out from there. Then he fell behind the Land Rover at a short distance. Mr. Yu, where are you going? The man in black driving the car asked casually. These men in black were all in low spirits. This time, they, the security team, accepted the task of protecting Yu Tao's safety. However, they did not expect that Yu Tao was not assassinated and actually died on the first day after returning from abroad. In the hands of some kind of inexplicable arbovirus. This is simply a big joke. Although they have no responsibility for Yu Tao's death, there will always be people who question their ability. And now during the contract period, they still have to allocate manpower to protect the upcoming head of the Yu family, who is Yun. But none of the security guards had very good senses about this young man. You must know that this guy caused a scene in the hospital, and in the end he even did such a treacherous thing as overthrowing his dead father. Although it was a drunken madness after drinking, God knows if this guy would always hide such an unhuman mentality. Who wants to protect such a guy? Go to the beach and park somewhere with few people. I want to enjoy the sea breeze, Yun said. Okay. Originally, when the employer said such words, the man in black had to think about whether he wanted to jump into the sea or something. But the man in black felt that it didn't matter whether the boy danced or not. He was just a scumbag anyway, so he agreed simply. After another hour and a half of driving, the luxury car came to a coastal road with few people. The silver-white van is always not far away, dotted here and there. Next to a cliff, the car stopped and Yun got out of the car. Two security guards dressed in black. He didn't care about the young man at all, he just got out of the car and sat on the stone, smoking and chatting. Yun looked deeply at the two men. You guys look down on me, and my mother and uncle look down on me now. They all want me to die, right? But I won't die. Yun faced the sea breeze with a crazy expression on his face. I want to take control of the Yu family, and then I will defeat all of you who look down on me. I will draw up a plan tomorrow to wipe out my uncle's small property. And the house where my mother lives? I will drive her away later. Ding family. Ding Lyman, this little bitch, when I take charge of the Yu family, I will find the best to cooperate and tie you to my secret residence. Then you can do whatever you want. Even if you cry, I won't let you go. Ha ha ha. How about I go crazy? That old immortal Yu Tao died well. Why didn't I realize before that the greatest happiness is when I control the Yu family? No matter what my parents, what uncles, what Ding Lyman, as long as I control the Yu family, I can take care of them one by one. And this bastard named Jia Yan, if you hadn't entangled Ding Lyman, how could I have been harmed to the point of breaking off the engagement? When I take charge of the Yu family, I will definitely send someone to destroy your entire family. In Yun's mind, he suddenly remembered, hey. The girl at the party the day before yesterday seemed to be named Jia Lin. I remembered it. This guy is Jia Yan's sister. What do you want to do by sneaking into my party? Very good, it seems that she is in Shanghai. When I go back, I will hang up the phone and call my brothers and ask them to arrest me. These guys who are not good for me will all die. Facing the sea breeze, the expression on Yun's face was extremely ferocious, as if a demon had just awakened today. Just when there were more and more crazy ideas in his mind, a van spotted the opportunity that Yun was far away from the two security guards and swooped up. Crunch. The sound of the vehicle braking suddenly was very violent. Don't move, just when the two security men suddenly woke up and wanted to reach into their arms and take out something. A man wearing a cloth cover on his head rushed out of the car and suddenly pointed a black pistol at the two of them. The two security men suddenly did not dare to move. Find bookstore. Follow me. Hurry. The man in the hood used his arms to hold Yun, who was frightened by the scene before him, and then pulled him into the van. Yun couldn't resist that power. Boom boom. The van revved up its power and sped away quickly. The whole process from arriving in the van to hijacking Yun took no more than 20 seconds. Let's chase him quickly. One of the security guards in black stood up and was about to get in the car and chase the van. No hurry. The other person, the leader, was a little lazy. Those kind of young people are caught as soon as they are caught. Anyway, their evaluation in the industry is just a little low. They are all taken away. What are we doing so hard? If we really catch up and it turns into a car and gun battle, then we will be in danger, right? It's not worth it for that kind of unfaithful and unfilial young man. So, take your time. Two security personnel got into the car and pursued him unhurriedly. Then I hung up the phone and called the police to notify my family or something. When they increased the speed to 80 miles, the van, which was originally too fast, had long since disappeared. To be continued. Thanks to the book friends who laughed and cried after reading it and the beauty Menying Luoluo for their continued rewards. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 35. The news of the death of Yu Tao, the head of the Yu family, had not passed long, and a piece of news from the Yu family's security personnel made the people in the Yu family's network speechless one by one. Yu Tao's son, who is also the new member of the Yu family who is about to take office. The person in charge, Yu Yuan, was also kidnapped. What happened to the Yu family, and Yu Tao's death? Could it be the fault of the person who captured Yu Yuan? After all, the cause of death was not detected in the end, and the medical experts invited said it was just some unknown arbovirus. Could it be that it was not an accident at all, but the work of enemies provoked by the Yu family? The Yu family must have done all kinds of bad things and provoked too many people they shouldn't have provoked. Some time ago, someone hanged himself because of Yu Tao's persecution, some people gloated. I heard that some time ago, Yu Tao hired the top domestic security team to protect himself. He probably knew that someone was going to deal with him. It seems that the cause of his death is not necessarily a virus. With such a crazy enemy, it seems we'd better have less contact with the Yu family, lest their opponents turn their anger on us. In the morning hall opened for Yu Tao, people from all walks of life came to see Yu Tao for the last time. After hearing the news that Yu Yuan had also been kidnapped, they all whispered to each other. As for the Yu family, they were all shocked by the news. Just after Yu Tao died, his son Yu Yuan was kidnapped again. Although this child did something like that last night, he is the next generation successor of the family after all. He was the one who was trained as a successor since childhood. In other words, even if Yu Yuan is like this, only he can take over the Yu family's business, and no one else can. The branches of the Yu family are all silent. If something unexpected happens to Yu Yuan, their company and assets will also suffer great losses. Mother Yu simply fainted after hearing the news that her son had been kidnapped by two unknown persons. The Yu family was in turmoil, but in a ruined place, Jia Yan was waiting. A van that was even more shabby than the previous one appeared in Jia Yan's eyes. The two killers are professionals. After kidnapping the heirs of a big family, he would naturally know how to hide his whereabouts. At this point, Jia Yan is not worried at all that they will expose their flaws. We should have caught Yu Yuan. Jia Yan was flying in the sky, staring at the van with a pair of compound eyes, his eyes flashing with complicated light. What I have always wanted to do is about to be completed. I am happy, but I feel very tired. It was really tiring, a battle of wits, and a long journey. As a mosquito, he traveled more than 2,000 kilometers from the far northeast to Shanghai regardless of his own safety. During this period, we have experienced so many dangers, so many hardships, and after so many situations, we have finally arrived today. As he was about to achieve his goal, Jia Yan felt that he was not too excited, but just felt very tired, extremely tired. But no. This guy Yu Yuan hasn't died in front of me yet. At least I have to wait until he dies before I can relax my emotions. Jia Yan cheers himself up. The van parked outside the unfinished building. Get down. The back door opened, and a bearded young man stepped out of the car, holding down a young man whose mouth was blocked. The music in the car is played very loudly, which can ensure that some movements are not easily noticed by outsiders. When we get here, the music is turned off, because this road is inaccessible and no one may pass by for an hour or two. Of course, even if there are a few mistakes, they don't care. Because after today, they will change their identities, leave this city, and even leave this country. The next mission about China will be taken at least 1 or 2 years away. The two escorted the young man to the room on the left side of the unfinished building. A male Anopheles sinensis mosquito is lying outside the window eaves of this room. His pair of compound eyes poked out from the corner of the window and looked at everything in front of him coldly. Yun was completely confused. He was still at the beach just now, dreaming of his dream of becoming the head of the Yu family. By then, he can have whatever he wants, even that little bitch Ding Liman, he can get it through special means. He can do whatever he wants. Anyone who commits murder or arson, as long as they don't care about you, will destroy them all. Anyway, he knew that his father Yu Tao had always done this. Over the years, Guan Yuyuan knew more than 10 people who had died at the hands of his father. Since my father can do it, Yuyuan can do it too. The difference is that Yu Tao is for the further growth of the family, and he, Yuyuan, will live and kill for himself. He is going crazy. He just wants to be happy. He wants to occupy all the beautiful things in the world, and kill all those who disobey him. Just like that Jia Yan. Kill without mercy. The blindfold worn by Yuyuan was removed. The face of the kidnapper was clearly seen by Yuyuan. One has a beard, his face is covered with flesh, and his muscles are bulging. He looks like he is someone who is not easy to mess with. The other was a young man wearing glasses, probably about the same age as him. It's just that under the thick lenses, the eyes will occasionally leak out, which is inexplicable and terrifying. The rag in the mouth was lifted. You are blind, do you know who I am? This was the first thing Yuyuan yelled. The two killers looked at each other, and then both smiled cruelly. Who's coming? The bearded man asked with a bloodthirsty smile. The person he was questioning was a young man wearing glasses, his hands and feet were tied. Yuyuan was sitting on the ground and yelling, it seemed that he didn't care at all. I don't really like this. If you like it, come on. I'll go out and have fun. The young man wearing glasses shook his head and walked out the door. You bastards! How dare you not listen to me? I am the future leader of the Yu family, do you know that? Yuyuan was still roaring. The bearded man smiled. From Yuyuan's point of view, it looked like a mouthful of blood. He raised his strong arm and slapped Yuyuan on the cheek. Speaking of which, Yuyuan's face still showed traces of being slapped by his uncle yesterday. But after Beard's slap, Yuyuan found that the intensity of the slap was completely different from that of his uncle. There was a pop sound, crisp and not soft at all. Only then did Yuyuan realize that the slap his uncle had given him yesterday was merciless. His cheek immediately swelled up, and he was swept to the cold concrete floor by the huge force. How dare you hit me? Yuyuan immediately got up from the ground. The first order is slaps, 12 slaps. This is the first one, and there are 11 more. The bearded man took out a piece of paper from his pocket, which was filled with words. Yuyuan looked at the piece of paper and suddenly felt a sudden tingling sensation in his pores. Could it be that everything written on this piece of paper are ways to deal with yourself? You bastard, did you hear what I said? Yuyuan continued to yell fiercely. But the reply he waited for was the palm of the bearded palm fan, fanning it up and down. Snapped. Snapped. Bang bang bang. Ah, no. Ah. Yuyuan screamed, and the bearded palm was extremely powerful. It only took 6 or 7 blows to draw blood from Yuyuan's mouth. How so? Why is this happening? These people are really not afraid of my identity. They simply know my identity and deliberately caught me here. Are they going to kill me? Please. No, Yuyuan lay on the ground, his eyes completely filled with fear. He never thought that he would be tortured by such people in this kind of place, let alone that he, who was about to become the heir to the Yu family's huge property, would have a bucket of cold water poured on his head when he was about to achieve his wish. Even your life may not be saved. Yuyuan suddenly woke up. In front of these people, he is still the good-for-nothing brat. He is not the heir to the Yu family, nor is he a rich young master with a lot of little brothers under his command. He is just a parasite who needs the protection of his parents. Yun seemed to fall from the clouds, and he cried, "No, please." Snapped. What greeted him was a powerful slap. Hee, 12 strokes are done. You are very tough-skinned. It hurts from my spanking class. The bearded man rubbed his palms. Yun invited a well-known barber to take care of his hair. His black hair, which was originally very smooth, was now wet with sweat and stuck to his scalp in a ridiculous shape. There was blood flowing from the corner of his mouth, and his mouth was swollen into a bun. He wanted to speak but was in so much pain that he couldn't make any sound at all. The bearded man picked up the paper again and muttered to himself, "Kick 21 times, be careful not to injure the fatal part." Then, "Let's continue." Beard put the piece of paper aside. Then, the thick calves were raised. Kick Yun hard in the side. Ah, Yun felt that all the organs in his body were displaced. The power of the beard is no joke, one kick is enough to injure his internal organs. But as a killer, Bearded Beard has his own way of killing people, and naturally he also has a way of studying the human body. Although this kick is very heavy and even hurts the internal organs, it will not kill Yun. "There are still 20 feet," Bearded said calmly. Bang! The bearded man kicked his leg hard and stepped on it. Stepping on Yun's belly, Yun's whole body arched up, and a mouthful of disgusting things mixed with bright red blood spurted out from his mouth. Yun really couldn't bear it anymore. What kind of heir to the Yu family, what kind of power, what kind of money and beauty? Under the great terror now, he burst into tears and cried bitterly. "Brother, brother! Please let me go, I will give you everything. Brother, please." Yun endured the pain and howled miserably from the corner of his mouth. Yun begged for mercy. Jia Yan, who was hiding outside the window eaves, looked at the scene and his mosquito body seemed to be trembling. This is excitement, this is excitement. This is the exhilarating feeling of an enemy finally surrendering. To be continued. Please collect it. Urgent request to collect 1,000 pieces. Hurry up to collect and support by you. Thanks to the book friend Aqua Blue Star YY for the 100 starting coin reward, a new face, welcome to the mosquito pit, haha. Thanks to the book friends, I laughed and cried after reading it, and the beauty Menying Luluo for their continued rewards. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito author, Buletin U. Chapter 36. In fact, Jia Yan still has a large portion of CHR-379 virus solution in his hands. As early as yesterday when he went out to poison Yu Tao, he tried his best to grasp the liquid bottles with his 6 long legs and carry them to the nearby bushes. Even though he drank a full stomach of the liquid yesterday, there is still more than half of the CHR-379 virus liquid left, at least enough for 2 uses. With these remaining doses of medicine, he will have great confidence when facing 2 killers, and his tone of voice will not become weaker because of the loss of such a killer weapon. And with them, it is not difficult for Jia Yan to kill Yun. But killing Yun directly with venom doesn't feel much. Just like Yu Tao, being frozen for a few seconds and dead for a few minutes, would this make Jia Yan feel comfortable? Impossible. So Jia Yan tried his best and finally used the means to let 2 killers bring Yun to the place where he once died. He wanted Yun to experience everything he had experienced before. He just wants Yun to be like himself before and die miserably while begging for mercy. Let you go? Hee. The bearded man looked at Yun lying on the ground like a dead dog, and shook his head cruelly. When you ordered your men to beat someone to death, did you ever think about letting him go? The bearded man held the paper and read, if he begs for mercy, just follow what it says. Oh, you don't need to read this line. After saying this, the bearded man sneered and continued to raise his feet. Okay, that's only 2 kicks, and there are still 19 kicks. By the way, What's written on this piece of paper are all the moves you used when you killed someone. Probably, one of your brothers who was present at the time revealed it. Please tell me the details, Bearded. He folded the paper. Where did these tricks against Yun come from? Is it true that the security personnel confessed when Yun beat people to death? Don't care about these beards. Those were just other details, he just had to do what was written. By the way, there is someone who wants to see you later, so I don't dare to beat you to death in one breath. Don't worry, I will be very gentle. The corners of his bearded mouth curled up into a cruel smile. Big foot down. Bang. Ah. And 18 more feet. Bang. Ah. Jia Yan stood outside the window eaves, watching the bloody scene in the room. He didn't have the slightest bit of intolerance or the slightest pity in his heart. Because everything Yun tasted was what he had tasted that day. Even though security personnel struck harder, targeting the fatal point every time. So Jia Yan will not pity Yun, but he will applaud. If it weren't for the fact that his mosquito body couldn't perform human movements, he would have gone up and beat Yun a few times. What are you going to do? After the 21 kicks were completed, Yun turned over like a dead dog and asked sadly with blood flowing from his mouth. The bearded man picked up the paper and after scanning it twice, he found that there was also an instruction on it. Treat others in their own way. He read. Jia Yan, is it because of Jia Yan? Yun coughed up blood from his mouth. He did feel extremely severe pain. The 21 feet of the bearded man really hurt his legs and legs to the flesh and feet to the heart. Kicked him very weak, but not fatally. Yun felt pain in his abdomen, as if he had cramps, and the intestines in his abdominal cavity were completely tangled together. Pain. It really hurts. He broke out in a cold sweat, looked at the bearded man and was flipping through the paper again, and said quickly, Big brother. Just tell me what you want, whatever price Jia Yan's family will give you, I will give it 10 times, no, 100 times I'll give it to you twice, please let me go, okay? It's not about money. The bearded man grinned, and his big yellow teeth were very conspicuous. Okay, next is 32 punches. My punches are heavier, so just bear with it. No. Don't. Help, help. Yun looked at the bearded man who raised his fists and yelled with an extremely frightened expression. But the bearded fist still hit him hard on the cheek. With just this one blow, Yun's 2 front teeth were broken, and blood spattered out like it was free, and the ground was dyed the color of blood. No. Yun seemed to be about to expire, twitching constantly on the ground. As a child of a wealthy family, have you ever been beaten? Now this experience is simply a torture of both body and mind. The severe pain on Yun's cheek and the severe psychological pain directly made him shed tears. Are you crying? There are still 31 punches left. Get up. The bearded man is unreasonable and has no sympathy at all. On the battlefield, he has seen punishments and disgusting things that are several times more miserable than this. The things in front of him are just childish in his opinion. He grabbed the fashionable hair that Yun had spent thousands of dollars on. The hair was pulled straight up, causing Yun to scream weakly and be pulled up from the ground. Pound. The heavy punch hit Yun's cheek without mercy. Ah! The punishment continues. Jia Yan was watching all this from outside the window eaves. The coldness in his cold compound eyes became even stronger. It seemed that as Yun endured everything he had endured again and again, his mood became sublimated again and again. He is not murderous or psychologically twisted, but just wants revenge. Jia Yan always believed that Yun, who killed the human being himself, now deserves it. Soon, the time came to the evening when the sun was setting. The young man wearing glasses outside sent out warning messages several times, and Yun's execution was also suspended several times. But until evening, No one found this place. And Yun, the young man who should have been waiting to become the leader of the Yu family, was already as angry as a thread, and collapsed in sweat and blood without any image. Yun was breathing weakly, and only this little movement could prove that he was still alive. He ordered his men to do everything Jia Yan had done before, and now he had tasted it himself. Maybe he didn't say the specific number of punches and kicks, but that's what makes it even more annoying. This kind of person can decide the life or death of another person with just one sentence. Now, he gets his comeuppance. In Yun's distracted eyes, he noticed that the young man with beard and glasses were walking together and saying something. Then, the bearded man reached out and patted Yun's cheek, which was swollen as big as a loaf of bread. "Wish you happiness." All he heard was the words bearded. Immediately, the two people walked out of the room one after another. Then there was the sound of a car driving away. The task Jia Yan gave them was to stop here and pay back everything they had endured to Yun, regardless of whether Yun died or not. Both bearded men can leave. These two killers will leave Shanghai now, and then take a flight from another big city to leave China. Because they know that the incident of killing Yun will continue to ferment and set off a wave of arrests. If they do not leave the country, they will most likely be exposed to danger. After waiting for a long time, the sky was completely dark. Yun turned over with difficulty and stared at the ceiling aimlessly. He knew that it might not be unusual for him to die in the next moment. Because he was injured too badly. Blood overflowed from the corners of his mouth, and Yun could not stop the bleeding because he did not even have the strength to close his mouth. It must be Jia Yan's family, it must be them. If I don't die, I will destroy his whole family. I must. Yun muttered at the corner of his mouth. The anger in his eyes was extremely intense. After an afternoon of torture, his madness seemed to have a more violent tendency. If such a person is released, it might mean that a ferocious monster is truly released, and he will dare to do anything to achieve his goal. Buzz buzz. At this moment, Yun heard the sound of some mosquitoes coming closer and closer in the darkness. This place is close to the wild, so it is natural for there to be more mosquitoes. Yun is covered in blood now. Such a person left in this abandoned house is like a light in the dark, attracting all the mosquitoes nearby to come and have a feast. A tiny female mosquito flew on Yun's cheek and started sucking blood. A few more were parked on his bare arms and elbows wearing t-shirts. Get out! Get out of here! Yun shook his body weakly, but this level of shaking could not stop the female mosquitoes attracted by the smell of blood. These bugs, which suck blood in order to reproduce, turned into vampires, flying around Yun. Yun could do nothing but endure this humiliation. When I get back, I will send people to burn this whole place down. Burn you all to death, Yun roared in his heart. Soon, a numb and itchy feeling came, and Yun was in pain and itching all over his body, which was unbearable. And at this time, Jia Yan, who was outside the window eaves, also fluttered his wings and flew towards Yun. Yun's eyes were distracted. In the darkness, he only saw a mosquito that was far larger than ordinary mosquitoes, flying towards him in a dangling manner. Snapped. Jia Yan picked a spot on Yun's neck that could not easily be pressed even if he turned over, and then pierced his skin with his mouthparts very arrogantly. Ah! Yun only felt something like a needle inserted into his neck. To be continued. Thanks to book friend I laughed and cried and forgot and book friend Z27818708775 for your continued rewards. Your rewards are the motivation for letting you to update. Thank you. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito author, letting you. Chapter 37. Feeling the enemy's blood in his mouth, Jia Yan looked cold. It was this person who made him transform from an ordinary college student to a revenant, then reborn, and even turned into a tiny mosquito with no power. This is the same person who brought harm to a family member. The younger sister also gave up school life. She had never left home, and she stayed alone in Shanghai City. She used her thin shoulders to avenge her brother. After Jia Yan was reborn, he lived with the purpose of this moment. The goal was achieved, and Jia Yan felt that Yu Yuan's blood he had sucked was full of hatred and extremely satisfying. What the hell? Yu Yuan moved his neck with difficulty, but the place Jia Yan chose was the safest part. No matter how he moved, he could not hurt the place where Jia Yan was. At the same time, Jia Yan began to secrete more of the substance in his mouth. He doesn't really want to suck blood. Sucking blood is just a way to increase Yu Yuan's pain, and the poisonous substances in his mouth are the source of his pain. After a moment, Jia Yan flew up. His body is strong, and there are probably not many mosquitoes in this world that can compare with him, but now that he has sucked a belly of fresh blood, he is still flying very fast. Yu Yuan clearly saw the true appearance of this mosquito through the moonlight. Such a big mosquito. Yu Yuan's eyes showed a slight look of surprise, but compared to his previous encounters and treatment, now that he saw just a huge mosquito, he was not so frightened. But the next moment, Yu Yuan's expression became a little frozen. I saw the huge mosquito flying to the ground, its round belly began to shrink continuously, and then some blood was spit out from his mouth parts. There is only one situation when mosquitoes spit out the blood they suck. After sucking a person's blood, most of the blood will be digested in the mosquito's body. The remaining small part will remain in the mouthparts and some internal organs. This kind of blood is called residual blood. When a mosquito wants to absorb the next person's blood, it will vomit the remaining blood into the target creature's body before piercing the target's skin and preparing to start sucking blood. And this behavior of vomiting out residual blood is the main reason why mosquitoes transmit viruses, because it will bring the disease of the previous blood-sucking host to the next person. But now, Jia Yan clearly just finished sucking blood, but he took the initiative to spit out blood. This behavior seemed strange. Yu Yuan watched the huge mosquito spit out blood from its mouth parts. Then he flew up again, and Yu Yuan was surprised to find that the target was himself again. Snapped. Jia Yan's 6 long legs stopped on Yu Yuan's neck and inserted the needle in his mouthparts into Yu Yuan's skin again. Yu Yuan was extremely shocked by this strange scene. He shook his neck in disbelief, but he couldn't drive away the huge mosquito. After a moment, the mosquito took off again. Under Yu Yuan's gaze, it fell to the ground and slowly spit out blood. Yu Yuan looked at the cold compound eyes of the giant mosquito and suddenly understood. This mosquito is deliberately playing tricks on itself. But it's just a mosquito, can it have such exaggerated intelligence, and know how to play tricks on humans? There was that strange itching feeling on my neck. Yu Yuan found that this itching process was no less than the feeling of severe pain. He began to twist his neck and let out a little whine. Jia Yan looked at him coldly not far away. In fact, mosquitoes have to pay a price for sucking blood. When sucking blood, they must use a lot of force. Some mosquitoes even suck their stomachs to burst. Although Jia Yan was a mosquito that had undergone training and drug mutation, he still couldn't escape the category of mosquito at this time, so he felt a little tired after sucking blood twice in a row. But this bit of fatigue was far from stopping him from continuing to torture Yu Yuan. The long-held desire to survive has become a reality right before his eyes. How could Jia Yan let go of this opportunity? He vomited out the blood, and then flew towards Yu Yuan regardless of the pain in his organs protest. "You monster, don't come here." Yu Yuan actually felt a little scared, and he ducked back with blood pouring from his mouth. But his arms and legs were tied tightly, and after being seriously injured, his body was weak. He could only move a little, but it was unable to prevent Jia Yan from falling again. Ah! Yu Yuan felt another needle-like thing near his neck, piercing directly into it. Jia Yan doesn't care about Yu Yuan's feelings, or in other words, he just wants Yu Yuan to suffer, the more pain, the better. No blood vessels were found this time. After Jia Yan slightly punctured Yu Yuan's skin twice with the needle, he pulled out the needle, changed places, and continued to puncture. Yu Yuan groaned mechanically. Jia Yan seemed to find this method better, so he kept thrusting in and pulling out again. Insert again, then pull out. But the action of inserting in and pulling out seems a bit obscene. Ahem. But in fact, by continuing such actions, not only Yu Yuan was suffering, but Jia Yan was also suffering. When men and women do similar things, both parties are happy, which is exactly the opposite. Ahem. The mosquito's stylet and mandibles are a very sophisticated biological system. They should not be used repeatedly in a short period of time. However, in order to take revenge and to make Yu Yuan feel a little more pain, Jia Yan decided he didn't care about that anymore, and just relied on his physical strength to launch piercing attacks on Yu Yuan again and again. Don't be like this, what is today, why? Yu Yuan's tone began to change as he moaned miserably. In fact, his injury was already very serious. His internal organs had already been damaged during Beard's attack, and then he was hit hard on the face by several punches, which also gave him a serious concussion. Sometimes people are like this. The pain reached a level where I couldn't tell whether I was at the end of my life. Yu Yuan's voice began to become smaller. But Jia Yan was still on top of him, darting back and forth. He is still taking revenge. If Yu Yuan still doesn't die like this, when he is sufficiently relieved, Jia Yan will fly to the bushes, absorb the CHR-379 virus, and free Yu Yuan completely. But depending on the situation, it seems that the virus is no longer needed. Why on earth, why, I want to become the head of the Yu family. Why is this happening? Yu Yuan's voice became deeper. He seemed to be crying. But the cry was also very weak. What did I do wrong? Yu Yuan's pupils began to expand, and then some hallucinations appeared. Dad, Mom, Uncle, Li Meng. He muttered, and the syllables coming out of his mouth seemed unclear. At this time, Jia Yan finally gave up the bite, his wings vibrated, his body was bathed in the moonlight, and he slowly flew up. His dark body reflected light in the moonlight, and then his pair of powerful wings kept flapping. Jia Yan remained silent and stopped in front of Yu Yuan. This enemy is heading towards death. Jia Yan's mood was extremely complicated. On the one hand, he felt that all his hard work had not been in vain, but on the other hand, seeing his former greatest enemy fall miserably in front of him, he had an indescribable feeling of complexity. Of course, there is no trace of sympathy in this complex emotion. Because he himself once lay miserably in the other room and died slowly. Yu Yuan even forged evidence, confusing right and wrong, saying that he died in a car accident. Even classmates from the university dormitory came to identify the body and discovered at a glance that he had been beaten to death. But this guy just relied on his family connections to settle things. Therefore, Yu Yuan's fate is not worthy of sympathy. Jia Yan just felt a little empty, his biggest wish. It's almost done, what's next? Perhaps the result of waiting for one's mosquito body is natural death? This was what I originally planned. Once the grudge between me and Yu Yuan was settled, it wouldn't matter even if I died. But at this juncture, Jia Yan found that he didn't want to die. Human desires are endless. If you grant him a wish, the next bigger wish will appear immediately. At this point, Jia Yan can directly admit that he is a human being. His next wish is not to die. At least, don't die immediately. His wish came true. Use this mosquito body to extend your life, and then, become more powerful. Just as Jia Yan stared at Yu Yuan with his compound eyes, waiting for the death of his biggest enemy before and after his rebirth. Yu Yuan, whose life breath slowly dissipated, rolled his dilated pupils and suddenly focused his eyes on the flying mosquito. Yu Yuan's eyes froze. From his weak mouth, came a syllable. Chia. Jia Yan's body trembled. He hurriedly flew higher into the sky, and then stared at Yu Yuan below. Yu Yuan's eyes were still staring at the sky where Jia Yan was before. No breathing. Died. Jia Yan carefully lowered the flying altitude. His biological receptors could detect that the infrared temperature on Yu Yuan's body was dropping sharply, and even his heartbeat had disappeared. Really dead. Jia Yan looked silently at Yu Yuan lying on the cold cement floor. His expression was a bit horrified, as if he had seen something incredible. The dignified successor of the Yu family, and the soon-to-be in charge of the Yu family's billions of assets, died suddenly in this silent unfinished building with multiple serious injuries all over his body. Did Yu Yuan have a flash of inspiration at the last moment and see Jia Yan in his hallucination? There really was some mysterious power that allowed him to see Jia Yan's true soul in the mosquito's body. Jia Yan really didn't know this. Perhaps, it is another mystery that cannot be solved in a lifetime. But it doesn't matter anymore, Yu Yuan is really dead in front of Jia Yan now. His biggest wish after rebirth was perfectly realized. Jia Yan's heart felt like a huge stone falling to the ground. To be continued. Thanks to brothers Yuji and Wuyer for their generous reward of 588 starting coins. Haha, we meet the wealthy people again. Thanks to the laughing and crying for getting book friends and the Mengying Luoluo beauty for their continued rewards, and thank you to everyone who gave recommendation votes. It is because of your support that Baiyu can continue to update. Many thanks. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito author, Buletin Yu. Chapter 38. Buzz Buzz. There were stars in the night sky, and a bright moon shone in the sky. Under the moonlight, a dark and huge male Anopheles sinensis flies on the road. This mosquito has a beautiful exoskeleton, and its whole body exudes a demeanor that ordinary mosquitoes cannot have. After flying out of a desolate land, the male Anopheles mosquito still looked back at the distance ahead. There is an unfinished building. The corpse of the great enemy Yu Yuan, who had long since lost his breath, was lying there quietly. The great revenge has finally been avenged. I really used this tiny mosquito body to kill Yu Yuan, a rich kid among humans, step by step. Jia Yan couldn't calm down. From the moment he was reborn, he had been clamoring for revenge in his mind, but it was really difficult to do such a thing with the body of a mosquito, so difficult that he actually questioned it. But step by step, he did not get discouraged, he just worked hard to achieve each short-term goal. The result of working hard is that he really succeeded. Buzz buzz. The mosquitoes continued to fly. Jia Yan saw a bus still running not far away and flew over. During the ride, which lasted more than an hour, the moon hanging high in the night sky became brighter and brighter. The bright moonlight penetrated the thin clouds and sprinkled on the earth. It seemed both illusion and reality, leading this huge international metropolis to wear a touch of mystery. Veil. I don't know if it was Jia Yan's illusion, but he felt that the city that never sleeps, carrying the dreams of countless people, seems to be less impetuous and more peaceful today. This may be a change in mentality and a different perspective on things. Finally, the vehicle stopped at a remote site. Jia Yan identified the road and flew out of the bus door. After he got out of the car, he checked the road again and flew towards a residential area that looked like a community. There are many basements in this inconspicuous old residential area. Some owners have transformed the basements into houses for simple living. Many young people who came to Shanghai to work hard embrace their dreams and live here. I hope my dream will come true one day. Among this group of young faces, there was also a young girl who looked particularly young. No one knows her specific name, only her nickname. Called Xiaolin. It is said that this girl, who is only 18 years old, was a high school student until last month. Then she came to Shanghai alone for certain things, and may go back to continue her studies after a while. Xiaolin, Why did you dress like that when you went out yesterday? A girl who looked to be no more than 22 or 23 years old was sitting in a small basement room. Her name was Panyankai, and young people in the area like to call her Zyoki. Next to her is a little girl who is playing with the computer and browsing the web. This little girl is Xiaolin. Few people know that this girl, who has just arrived in Shanghai less than a month ago, harbors the desire to avenge her brother, and they thought she just had a falling out with her family and ran away from home. Only Panyankai, the tenant of the basement, knew that this girl probably had some special purpose. It has been a month since I met Xiaolin. As a princess, Zyoki once drank with a guest until past 1 in the morning a month ago. On the way home, I saw Xiaolin curled up on the side of the road with tears on her face. This kind of thing is actually very common in big cities like Shanghai. Sometimes, Zyoki can meet several times a month. If this kind of girl is left alone, she may go astray, or she may grow up in adversity. But the possibility of encountering bad guys is always much higher. Originally seeing a similar scene, Xiaoqi basically passed it by as if it never happened, but she didn't know why that day. Maybe it was the alcohol, or maybe it was the girl's tender and cute face that made her feel pity. Zyoki stopped, then stepped forward gently, greeting the girl. What happened after that was very natural. As a little girl who was not familiar with the world, she was quickly moved by the strange sister who cared about her. Without any warning, she followed Zyoki back to the rented basement room. Seeing that a month has passed, Jialin still looks innocent and cute. A few days ago, Xiaoqi thought to herself, I'm really lucky that I'm not a bad person, otherwise this little girl would have been deceived and miserable. Xiaolin found a job in a bakery during this month, and it is said that she is still investigating something. In just 1 month of contact, Panyankai and the young people nearby fell in love with this little girl who was not wary of others and was also simple and lovely. But the night before yesterday, Xiaoqi, who came home from get off work early, saw Jialin secretly borrowing her own clothes and cosmetics, put on unskilled light makeup, and returned from outside in the middle of the night. It was hard for Zyoki to describe the feeling, just like a real sister who had gone astray. On the spot, she scolded Xiaolin. She still didn't know the reason, but she vaguely felt that the truth was not what she imagined. So taking advantage of the fact that the nightclub was not busy tonight, Zyoki specially asked for leave. After chatting with Jialin in the room for a long time, she finally asked her question after both parties calmed down. Sister Zyoki, I really can't say. Xiaolin hesitated for a long time, refusing to say a word. Jialin was really sorry. It was impossible for her to tell her real reason for being in the city. The idea of finding the successor of the Yu family for revenge would definitely frighten Xiaoqi. What's more, she is just young, not really stupid. There are some things that can be said and some things that cannot be said. She still knows these. Okay, I won't force you, but you promise sister that you won't come back so late in the future, you know, Zyoki said seriously. Just as Jialin was about to answer something, her eyes were browsing the computer, but she suddenly stopped. I saw the web page saying, the city's wealthy Yu family and his son, one died and the other disappeared. What is the reason? She no longer cared about answering Panyankai, and quickly scrolled the mouse to see the text of the article. After a while, Jialin's shoulders trembled, and big tears slid down from the baby's fat face, and then dropped to the ground. A huge Anopheles sinensis mosquito has been lying in front of the door, watching for a long time. Seeing Jialin crying again, Jiayan sighed deeply. Little sister, you have shed too many tears for your brother. Now that Yun is dead, you should return to your normal life, so that your brother will feel at ease. Xiaolin, what's wrong with you? In the room, Panyankai comforted Jialin at a loss. Okay, so you just cried? Panyankai looked at the article on the computer screen, looking thoughtful. Jia Yan is still watching. This is not all he has done for his little sister. After all, he has been away from home for a month. According to his character, it is very likely that he chooses to continue his life in Shanghai because he is afraid of being scolded by his family when he returns home. And he had already arranged for 2 killers to do this. He had already seen this backup figure just now. Auntie, the Xiaolin I'm talking about lives here. A young man led a middle-aged couple towards the basement. This middle-aged couple has half of their hair bald and the other half has a lot of white hair. Their faces are extremely haggard. They are obviously only in their 40s, but they look as old as those in their 50s or 60s. His wife is a similarly pale woman. Although she does not look too old, her skin is yellow and her lips are dry and crusty. The most special thing was her eyes. Perhaps the tears she shed every day made the eye circles red, as if her vision had deteriorated a lot. Jia Yan looked at the 2 elders and shouted sadly in his heart, "Dad, Mom. My son is unfilial. Now I can only see you in this body. I can't kneel down to apologize to you. This month has made you sad and made you cry. Not only has your face become much older now, but your hair has also turned gray. My son shouldn't do that." Jia Yan's mosquito body was shaky and he was in an excited mood. The young man knocked on the door. "Xiaoqi, Xiaolin, are you there?" The 2 elders looked at each other, and their palms were tightly clasped together. It seemed that both of them were very nervous. The son died and the daughter immediately disappeared. All this happened within a month. God knows how this middle-aged couple survived this month, and no one knows how much effort they put into finding their last remaining flesh and blood and their daughter. All they knew was that they received a strange phone call last night. The man on the other end of the phone spoke coldly and just told them that their daughter had gone to Shanghai and was still living here. Without any doubts, the second elder took the train directly and rushed thousands of miles to the metropolis where his son had died. Whether my daughter is inside now and whether this run has been in vain depends on the moment the door opens. Click. The basement door opened. An unfamiliar girl's face was reflected in the eyes of the second elder. Their hearts instantly hit rock bottom. "Who are you?" the girl asked doubtfully. The young man leading the way was about to explain when he saw the face of a little girl looking out from the door. Then, her big watery eyes froze. The next moment, the girl cried, "Dad, Mom." No longer caring about whether he would be scolded, the hard work of the past month, the grievances suffered in the past month, the hardship of investigating the cause of his brother's death, the fear and powerlessness when facing the enemy, at this moment, everything, all turned into grievances and sadness. When she saw her parents, Jia Lin completely let down her guard. Rush out of the room and hug the 2 elders. Pan Yankai and the young man who led the way suddenly understood something. Then the 2 of them looked at each other, smiling at the family of 3 crying together. The daughter cries and cuddles, the father silently wipes the corners of his eyes, and the mother complains, tears rolling down her face. "Mom, Dad, little sister, I hope you can forget about me and live happily." In this scene of family reunion, a huge dark mosquito flapped its wings and flew into the night sky. Jia Yan is leaving, and he has completed all the things he did in Shanghai. Maybe Ding Liman should also pay a visit, but for Jia Yan, this girl who he once loved and died for her is already a thing of the past. Maybe, just like campus life, it will become a beautiful thing forever. A part of memory is the best choice. He is going to pursue his own path, the path that extends his life and makes him stronger. Little did he know that when Jia Yan's huge figure flew high into the sky facing the moon, Jia Lin, who was crying, just looked up and saw this big mosquito with a very lonely back. This mosquito was very similar to the one she saw in the Yu family courtyard the day before yesterday. Jia Lin looked at the mosquito, and the familiar feeling emerged in her heart again, but she didn't know what this inexplicable familiarity was about. I can only watch this huge mosquito fly slowly, and then completely disappear into the night. Goodbye. Jialin didn't know why, but she said goodbye to this big mosquito in her heart. To be continued. A super big chapter with nearly 4,000 words for everyone. I can't help it, the plot of this chapter is coherent and it's not easy to break it apart. It just so happens that this chapter is the end of this volume. The next chapter begins, which is a new volume and a new chapter. Mosquito fans, please give me some support. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 39. The international metropolis that used to be noisy and lively in the past seems to have been blown by a whirlwind these days and has become even more lively. Police cars roared. An interview car is a Mercedes-Benz. Many people looked at the unique motorcade with astonished expressions. The TV station's live broadcast truck rushed to the scene. The graceful and beautiful female reporter picked up the microphone with a solemn expression and said to the camera with a sad face, according to this reporter's news, the young man who was kidnapped and died this time was only 20 years old. 4 years old, he is Yun, the son of the wealthy businessman Yu Tao who died mysteriously the day before yesterday. Is there any connection between the deaths of the two father and son? The police are investigating and analyzing. The road outside the unfinished building, which is usually sparse with vehicles, was filled with cars. A middle-aged man wearing a helmet seemed to be paralyzed with fear. He was surrounded by police and reporters. He just said with trembling lips, I wanted to go inside in the morning to defecate, and then I saw someone inside with his hands and feet tied up and bleeding a lot, so I hung up the phone and reported the crime. Uncle policeman, it really has nothing to do with me. The wealthy successor of the Yu family who was kidnapped and disappeared yesterday was found dead in an unfinished building. With such good news material, a group of reporters were like sharks smelling something fishy, swarming one by one towards the normally peaceful and quiet area where the construction work was suspended. According to the knowledge of this reporter, this building complex was once claimed to be another economic center of the city 5 years ago, but due to various reasons, it has changed into its current image. So this kidnapping incident, what is the mystery behind it? What kind of people did Yun, a second-generation rich man, provoke and be treated like this? Readers are kindly requested to pay attention to the continued reports of this newspaper. At the scene of the crime, several criminal police officers were conducting a rough inspection of the young man's body. Preliminary judgment is that the death was caused by organ bleeding. The beating lasted for at least 3 hours before death. The technique was very clever. It is probably not the work of a novice. After taking photos and collecting evidence, the young policeman turned over the body. Why are there so many swellings on my neck? Are there so many mosquitoes here? He frowned strangely. Take a photo of it. Maybe there's something weird about this, another middle-aged policeman quickly reminded. Of course, even the police could not know that the swelling they saw was the work of the real murderer, and the identity of this instigator was actually a dead human reborn. The story is so fantastical that no one in the modern world would believe it. Son. Let me go in and see my son. A woman's scream came from outside, but she was stopped by the police who were maintaining order. The Yu family is here. What's going on? Among the Yu family, a young man who looked like he had just arrived in Shanghai after a long journey, had a fierce look in his eyes. This man looks very similar to Yun in appearance, but he looks a year or two older. However, unlike Yun's impression of a playboy, he has a capable and tough look, as if he is a qualified warrior. Yu Long. Auntie is dead. Your uncle and cousin are both dead. Auntie is dead. The woman held the young man's arm and cried. Aunt, don't worry. I'll avenge my cousin. I'll quit my job as a mercenary in the French Foreign Legion in the next few days to investigate the death of my uncle and you. And the young man quickly grabbed the woman, with hatred in his eyes. The fierce light. The French Foreign Legion is one of the most famous mercenary organizations in the world. From World War I to World War II, and from World War II to the Franco-Prussian War, this army has proven its strength on countless battlefields. All the soldiers who come out of this army are strong. The turmoil in the Shanghai stock market did not affect the journey of a Mosquito at all. When the Shanghai stock market began to fluctuate violently, this Mosquito had already embarked on its own path. Kuangke. Taking the train bound for the northeast again, Jia Yan quietly hid near the trash can in a certain carriage. With the last experience, riding the train again is already very familiar to Jia Yan. I really left looking at the city slowly leaving in his sight. Jia Yan sighed with emotion. For him after his rebirth, this is the place where his greatest wish comes true and where he bids farewell to his past self. Killing the enemy Yun, bidding farewell to the university campus, and ending the confusing secret love plot. For Jia Yan, this city will no longer be a special city, at least not as important as when he was reborn. Now in his mind, the only thing worthy of commemoration and aftertaste is his hometown. It's a pity that he is not ready to return to his hometown yet. Anyway, he has already met his family in Shanghai, so there is no rush to return to his hometown. The first thing he has to do is to increase his lifespan again and become stronger. This time I brought the remaining CHR-379 virus with me. With such a big bottle and my size, the possibility of being discovered will be much greater, so be careful in the car. Jia Yan felt frightened at the thought of being hot-headed and bringing the remaining bottle of virus medicine to the train. With the liquid medicine in hand, his flying speed was much slower. If it hadn't been for last night when the train was still under normal maintenance time, he had quietly sneaked into the carriage through the night with the liquid medicine in hand. Otherwise, getting on the bus with passengers will definitely expose you. It's still a hassle to get off the train. I have to wait until the train reaches the terminal again, the passengers get off, and the train is being inspected. Then I can find a chance to get off. Jia Yan looked at the lively scene of people coming and going in the train again, and couldn't help but shrank his head between the trash cans and hid deeper. Next to him, the bottle containing the CHR-379 virus solution was placed there. Jia Yan's cold compound eyes observed the passengers and train conductors walking around. The last mutation I had was caused by the so-called antimicrobial peptide liquid used by Siberian wild tigers. I won't say whether this liquid is an antimicrobial peptide or not, but it definitely has an effect on me. So, my plan to become stronger this time is very simple. It is to find the Siberian wild tigers factory and try their medicine again to see if it will still work on me. That's right, Jia Yan's plan to extend his life and become stronger is centered around the northeastern wild tiger's antimicrobial peptide liquid. Otherwise, for a normal mosquito, reaching his level would be the limit, and going further would be impossible. I want to extend my life, I want to become stronger, I want to have more time. I want to go back to my hometown and see my relatives and familiar things there again. If you want to do so much, you need to have longevity and body. In order to extend his life and strengthen his body, Jia Yan has only one choice. That is to find the northeastern wild tiger's medicinal solution factory and try to see if the mutant potion can have a second mutation effect on you. But there are still many problems in this. I must first find the location of the Manchurian wild tiger's factory. But since he regards that potion as an important thing to invite addicts, his factory will definitely not be easy to find. At least it is absolutely impossible for ordinary people to know. What to do? The train rumbled along. This train is no longer the express train that Jia Yan took before. It is slower and the fare is lower. Therefore, the number of stops during the journey has increased, and the number of passengers getting on and off the bus has also increased. Jia Yan huddled in the gap between the trash cans and quietly observed the situation outside. At this time, he became more deeply aware of the fact that he had been reborn as an insect. No matter how noisy human beings are, he is the only one hiding in the cracks. The traffic outside seems to have nothing to do with him. It was extremely noisy outside, but here, it was extremely quiet. A little lonely and a little bitter. Only the person involved can understand the feeling. The journey of more than 2 days and 36 hours was very long. In the train, only a few passengers accompanied him, from the starting station in Shanghai to the northern city of China. Chuncheng in the North Country, Yongchun City, the capital of Ji Province. To be continued. New volume, new atmosphere. Thank you all for your continued support. Thanks to the book friend who laughed and cried after reading it and forgot about it for the reward that hit the screen and also gave me a reward of 1000 starting coins during the Ghost Festival. I'm really rich. And thank you to book friend Z27818708775 for your continued rewards. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 40. Yongchun City has a total population of 7.67 million and a total of 7 districts, 2 cities, and 1 county under its jurisdiction. With such a huge population, Yongchun railway station is naturally busy with traffic. When the train arrived in Yongchun, it was still around 9 o'clock in the morning, which was the peak traffic period at Yongchun railway station. After arriving at the terminal, the train, which had traveled nearly 2,000 kilometers, began normal maintenance. And just where people didn't pay attention, there was a huge, dark Anopheles sinensis mosquito. Quietly flying from the bottom of the train into the air. Huh. A conductor seemed to see something, then blinked and didn't take it to heart. It must be dazzling, otherwise where could such a big mosquito come from, holding a small bottle? Jia Yan didn't know that he had been discovered. He just flew quickly under the scorching sun, then rushed to the top of the train station and hid in a cool place where the sun could not reach him. He had to wait for night before going out. After all, it was broad daylight. He was already big enough and he was holding a medicine bottle, so there was a high possibility of being discovered. The CHR-379 virus has been of great help to Jia Yan. With it, he feels that his self-confidence and ability have been greatly improved. Without this virus, Jia Yan is just a more powerful ordinary mosquito. Besides, even if the CHR-379 virus was placed here, there would be nowhere to look for him if he went out alone. Even if he could speak, this is not a question that would be answered by just asking someone on the street, where is the Siberian wild tiger factory? As for the evening, he had an idea. Jia Yan was at a high place, looking down. There are really too many humans. The busy traffic is not enough to describe such a scene. As the overlord of the earth, it is really terrible to be able to develop the number of its own race to such a huge scale without completely destroying the ecology. Bustling and hustle and bustle. From the heights of the train station, you can see a small microcosm of human society. Some people have sad faces, some are cheerful, and some have stern looks. As for the students, they are all full of youth. The couple was showing off their affection, but the sexy boy next to them had given up and looked miserable. The little girl made a fuss about eating candy, and her mother got angry and spanked the little girl several times. Jia Yan looked at the various aspects of life from a height. He didn't know if he could be considered a human being now, but he always felt like he was beyond a human category. Because of this feeling, these scenes of various aspects of life now made him feel, he gained a lot more insights. There is an ancient poem that goes well, if you don't know the true face of Mount Lu, you just live in this mountain. It is precisely because Jia Yan can now observe all kinds of human beings from one side that he feels even more emotional. Never tire of it. Time passed quickly, and the scorching sun set in the west in the blink of an eye. A full moon soared from the sky. It's another full moon night. After waiting for several hours again, it was already late at night. Jia Yan looked at the crowd below, turning into infrared heat sources. Although the city is still brightly lit, if you set out now, the possibility of being seen will be greatly reduced. Then, his huge mosquito began to vibrate its wings, and its strong wings were like helicopter blades, making a buzzing sound when flapping. Jia Yan found that he still felt a little stronger in the past few days. Although the magnitude was not as exaggerated as after taking the purple liquid, he was actually getting stronger. The mutation function of the purple-red liquid is likely to still exist in his body, because no matter how powerful the mutation is, there is always a process. As an insect, Jia Yan, although the mutation time can be greatly shortened, there will always be a follow-up. The ongoing process. His wings are more powerful. Able to fly higher and faster. Mosquitoes scurry through the night sky in the city. Facing the flying wind, Jia Yan could feel the force of the wind being so strong that it caused some of the fine fluff on his body to sway. His tentacles were slightly tilted back in the air. This was a strategy he came up with to reduce the resistance of the strong wind. It is impossible for ordinary mosquitoes to have his speed, so these strategies are not needed at all. The balance rod located above the middle of the abdomen and chest plays a role in controlling the body's balance. With him, Jia Yan can fly and sprint faster and faster. The fine scales on his body have changed dramatically compared to when he first became a mosquito. These scales are harder and thicker. Although it brings a certain burden to flying, in contrast, his defense is better and his self-protection ability is stronger. Jia Yan's compound eyes flashed in the air, and his strong mosquito body turned around and flew away towards the dark shadow of the residential area he saw in his compound eyes. This brand new residential area has a complete security system, and the security level at the door is also extremely high. But how can these security systems prevent a mosquito entering from high altitude? Jia Yan entered the community smoothly. For safety reasons, Jia Yan found a house with an awning and carefully placed the CHR-379 virus solution on the top of the awning. It is unlikely that anyone would see this place, and even if they did, they would just think it was garbage. When Jia Yan flew up again, there was no medicine bottle. Even if he was noticed by someone, it would only be the surprise of seeing a big mosquito. He continued searching along the window. Well, this laptop is open and placed on the table. Although there is no one around, the window is closed and you can't get in. Jia Yan was a little disappointed, but this kind of thing is inevitable. He turned around and continued to wander around the neighborhood. Finally, the balcony door of a house was opened, and the laptop in the owner's study was on, but no one was in front of the computer. This caught Jia Yan's attention. He observed the house and after seeing no danger, quietly flew into the house through the balcony door. Jia Yan still has excellent vision in the dark. He can sense heat sources and distances through the sensitive reaction of his tentacles. It turned out that the owner of the house ran to the bedroom and fell asleep with a woman. Jia Yan's eyes immediately lit up. This business works. He flew into the room where the laptop was lit. This is obviously like a study room. There are no beds and other daily necessities in it. There are only 2 rows of bookshelves, and there is also a laptop with downloading software open. It turns out this man is an artist. Jia Yan saw a digital tablet, a drawing pen, and a pile of hand-drawn drafts next to the laptop. Jia Yan couldn't help but jump to the mouse. The mouse used by the owner is only a typical wireless mouse for laptops. The workmanship of this mouse is pretty good and it is also made of extremely light materials. Jia Yan pushed the mouse and it felt about twice as heavy as the mouse in the rental house of Fan Hefei in Shanghai. If Jia Yan's strength hadn't continued to grow stronger in the past 2 days, he might not have been able to push forward. Jia Yan misses Fan Hefei's family a little. Push the mouse hard to shrink the mounted programs. Jia Yan clicked on the QQ icon. Yes, he is going to log in to the QQ that has been contacting the two killers in the past few days. Compared to the difficulty of using a mouse, the keyboard is a little easier. Laptop keyboards are generally made relatively soft. Jia Yan found a half-cut eraser on the side of the table and hit the keyboard. It was much easier than the pen cap. Beep beep beep. As soon as I entered my account and password to go online, the QQ icon flashed. Hello, we have arrived safely in the Hawaiian Islands. The blue waves and blue sky here are beautiful. I wonder if you are interested in coming over to relax together? We would like to be our hosts and thank you for your help. It's great. After the task is completed, we can go to a tourist resort to relax, Hawaii. Tisk tisk. Jia Yan was truly envious, but he still typed a rejection message. Hello everyone, I don't think I need to relax now. Now I want to ask you a question. I wonder if you can help me find it through your organization's intelligence database. The previous message was a message from two killers to Jia Yan. Jia Yan is not sure whether the two of them will see the messages he sent in real time. After all, there is a time difference between the Hawaiian Islands and China. Maybe they even log into QQ or something abroad when they go abroad. It seems like something is wrong. It is true that the time difference between Hawaii and China is 18 hours. 1 o'clock at midnight in China is exactly 7 o'clock in the morning at the beginning of the day in Hawaii. A tall, yellow-skinned man with a beard was lying on a soft bed in the hotel, sleeping with his head covered. Beep beep beep. His mobile phone placed beside the bed suddenly made a clear calling sound. Yeah, the bearded eyes suddenly opened. Half a minute later, the bearded man came to the room on the other side and slammed the door. Damn it, why are you knocking on the door so early? The young man wearing glasses rushed to the door and opened the door before he could put on his glasses this time. The killer has many emergencies, and he naturally understands them. The bearded man didn't say anything, but handed the chat screen on his mobile phone to the young man wearing glasses to watch. Reply him and ask what's going on. The young man wearing glasses frowned and said to the bearded man. Xiao Yao, do you really think it's possible for us to invite him to join the organization? The bearded man asked strangely. To be continued. Thanks to Z27818708755 for the reward. Thanks to the book friends Wu Wei Er and Meng Meng Di for the reward of 100 starting coins. Thanks to the book friends I laughed and cried and forgot for the reward again, and the new book friend Bookworm Demon Lord for the reward. And thank you to the book friends who recommended it. With your help, Baiyu can continue to update. Many thanks.